am I going to make it? What am I going to do? What is my life going to look like? Right? That's the condition that these two men find themselves in. Let's read about it. Verse 14. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. Verse 15. So it was, while they conversed and reasoned, that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained so that they did not know him. And he said to them, what kind of conversation is this that you have with one another as you walk and are sad? Ain't that amazing? Jesus is asking them questions about what they're talking about. Check this out, what they say. Verse 18. Then the one whose name was Cleopas answered and said to him, are you the only stranger in Jerusalem? And have you not known the things which happened there in these days? Ain't that amazing? Right? They are so restricted from seeing who Jesus is that the very one that they're talking about, they don't even recognize they're talking about him. Isn't it amazing how in life things happen to us and the very issue that we're dealing with, the one who the issue is about, is right in your presence? Has that ever happened to y'all? I've seen people at work who are talking about someone, and that someone is right there. And they don't know the one they're talking about, they're talking to. Right? Can you imagine people doing that, right? Well, I don't know what he's talking about. What is wrong with him? And what is wrong with them? Do you see that? That Obama? Right. They don't know who Obama is. And Obama might be the person you're talking to. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that there are situations when God is with us. He's present. We're talking about him. We think we're talking about another situation. But truthfully, we're talking about him. Because the truth is, most times when we go to our griping and our moaning and our, complaining, right? Our self-worth, all the value about us. Job is indicative of this because Job began to loathe the day he was born. And the truth is, if you don't like the day you were born, what you're really saying is, I don't like the one who created me on the day I was born. So the problem isn't with me being born. The problem is the one who allowed me to be born. And who is that? That'd be God. That'd be God, right? Right? When we're talking about our issues, we're really talking about the one who provides for us during the issue. But we want to put it in context of it just being about the issue, when it's really about God. Right? It's really about God. Let me continue to read. In verse 19, and he said, this is Jesus, and he said to them, what things? So they said to him, the things concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priest and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Indeed, besides all this, today is the third day since these things happened. Yes, and certain women of our company who arrived at the tomb early astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And certain of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said. But him they did not see. Then he said to them, O foolish ones. Now Jesus is talking now. And slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures that things concerning himself, that they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have to go farther. But they constrained him, saying, "Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent." And he went in to stay with them. Now it came to pass, he sat at the table with them, that he took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. Verse 31, then their eyes were opened, and they knew him. Check this out. And he vanished from their sight. And they said to one another, did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? My prayer for our life is that we don't live a life where we catch a glimpse of Jesus a little too late. That we don't see him in all his glory and in all his majesty while he is with us. And that our conversation about him only be about a memory. Didn't our hearts burn when he walked with us? Well, what about when he was with you? Did you fully embrace who he was? Did you fully see him in his glory? Did you fully participate with him as he was walking according to his will and his desire for your life? Well, I dare say these men missed out on an opportunity because their eyes were not opened to see him for who he was until he did something that was traditional, something that they had remembered him doing, and then they can see him for who he is. What am I really saying? What I'm really saying is, I don't want us to walk through life waiting for Jesus to show up doing things as he had done in the past and miss the new stuff that he's doing in our life. God isn't always walking with us the same way that he's always walked with us. God isn't always doing the same thing with us that he's done in the past. But what happens if we're living in the past with God and not willing to move forward toward the God who is with us now? Why is it that our eyes remain so closed to seeing God in a new way, in a fresh way? Is it because we've become so accustomed to seeing God in a specific way that that's our comfort level and that's as far as we're willing to go with God? Is it because to see God differently may preempt my plan and my strategy for my life? If I got to see him differently, maybe that means I've got to change. And guess what, y'all? My change is not easy. I don't want to do it. Right? Maybe seeing God differently will require something of us that we're not willing to give. Right? Lisa, I see your face. You just see it. You do something going on. Help me.
But it's about growth.
It's about growth.
Yeah, it's right. About him taking you. But don't you have to remember the things he brought you through in order to move forward so you don't go back there?
You should remember the things that he brought you through to go forward. However, what happens when you live in the things that he brought you through, and that becomes the caveat for who God is? I ain't moving no further. This is all I know God to be, right? That's what Israel's problem was. Israel saw God as being a God that came for them. Nobody else, for them. So when this Jesus shows up, and this Jesus is showing hospitality to prostitutes and drunkards and money changers, and he hanging out with the sinners, that's not the God I know. The God they knew was a God that was based upon rules and legalism and law. And if God showed up any other way, grace, for instance, Right? What's that? What's this grace thing we're talking about? Right? But Jesus said that he brought a new covenant. And this new covenant was not based upon law, but based upon grace. All the law is wrapped up into two. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. All the laws of the prophets are now found in these two laws. That makes sense? Right? Miss Grace. It's a new thing now. It's a new thing. Yes, Miss Grace.
Pastor, he did come for the people of Israel.
He did.
I mean, those are the people that he chose. But and I thought that he didn't reach out to others until after Israel rejected him.
Right, but wasn't it always in his divine plan to reach out to others?
I don't know.
Yes.
Because it didn't happen until after, it was when Israel said no to him.
When they rejected him.
Went to others.
But doesn't Paul talk about the fact that our salvation was based in the foundation of the earth? Doesn't Paul talk about the fact? See, this is a divine plan that God didn't do nothing with mistake. Exactly.
That's what I'm asking.
Right, yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes. God always had a plan to save everybody. To give everybody an opportunity for salvation. Now, will everybody be saved? No. Everybody will not be saved. Right? There will be some who reject Christ. So they will not be saved. However, God has always had a plan for the salvation, to offer salvation to every man. Be you Jew, Gentile, pagan, right? Remember? Right? Whether Jew or Greek, bond, right, or free, right? Right? His offer for salvation is offered to everybody. But what happens if, like Bildad, God can only save folk who are righteous, not the wicked? See, I'm looking at it not from God's perspective. I'm looking at it from Israel's perspective. Because sometimes Israel put themselves in a position where they thought